guys, Dtwo here with another deck guide and another deck archetype that's been around for a while. This time it's the Midrange Hunter. This deck has been pretty popular for over a year, I would say. Um, Back in the day, it was like such a dominant um deck because of Starving Buzzer and Unleash the Hounds, but then those got nerfed, and then Leroy Jenkins got nerfed. But it got some cards for instance, the Piloted Shredder, which is a great aggressive card. It got things like Dr. Boom, and then just recently in the Black Rock Mountain expansion pack, it got Quickshot, which is also a great card as well, giving Hunter a little bit more reach and a little bit more removal. So there's two and a half, maybe three, if you want to call it, Hunter archetypes. The one is the Midrange Hunter. Another is Face Hunter, in which you just go all out aggressive. Sometimes the deck doesn't have anything more expensive than 3 mana in the deck, and you basically use your hero power to finish out the game. And the other archetype, it's called Hybrid Hunter. It basically uses pieces of both, and that deck Farmer is going to do. So he'll be explaining the differences between this. I'll kind of like touch on some of the differences as well. That deck uses like some early aggression and kind of finishes you off with hard to kill minions such as the Savannah Hyman. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this one. I named it Jab because it's Jab's list. He used it to get #1 on the NA server or the Americas server earlier this month, it being May right now. And we could just take a look at the list. So going through just from the bottom, Hunter's Mark, there's one of those. If you have two, it's really a disaster if you have two in your hand, so that's why there's only one. The reason why there aren't zero is because Hunter's Mark can just be a perfect way to get rid of a big minion or a guy with big health. Like I've had this card has actually won me several games by itself. Sometimes it can be a dead card, but sometimes it can be extremely useful. So yeah, it's definitely deserves to be in the deck. Web Spinner is something to kind of start the game off with a nice tempo. Even if it dies, it's going to get value because it's going to come back. And there's a lot of other things to silence in the deck, so no one really wants to silence it. It's not really worth silencing. So whenever you play, it's going to be good. And also, turn 5 play, you can go Web Spinner, Houndmaster, and that's a lot of stats for that, and it's really annoying to deal with. Explosive Trap in the deck, sometimes you see Snake Trap. Explosive Trap is a little bit of a surprise tactic. People usually expect Snake Trap in Midrange Hunter deck, but Explosive Trap can be good anti-aggro tech. It can also be good finishing up the game if you can force your opponent to run into you. Sometimes the only way they can win is if they use attack, if they can attack and not using spells, which is pretty common. Freezing Trap is a great way to establish tempo. You can get rid of a big guy in the field and get some damage in. And even though this is mid-range, like yeah, it's not face on. You're not trying to go face all the time, but you are trying to kill your opponent, especially against control matchups. Usually the mid-range role in that matchup is to just eventually out-tempo and just overwhelm your opponent and kill them before they have a chance to stabilize. So being able to tempt your opponent out with something like Freezing Trap is nice. Quick Shot is used both as removal, and if you run out of cards, you can get the extra card. You don't run out of cards as quickly using Face Hunter, so Quick Shot is usually used as more removal. Prior to Quick Shot, you would have to use Kill Command to kill something, even if it only had 3 life, which is really frustrating. You don't really want to be using that much mana and that kind of burst to be just removing something in the field, but something you had to. So having Quick Shot for the extra removal, it's kind of like the the addition of Dark Bomb to Warlock, where you're like, just because it's not as good as other things like Frostbolt doesn't mean that the class didn't really need the card. They definitely Hunter is pretty happy to have Quick Shot, even if you don't end up drawing a card. Haunted Creeper, another really sticky minion that you can have out there. Your opponent doesn't want to split it up, but then if they don't split it up, you can enable things like Kill Command and Houndmaster. Ironbeak Owl is pretty essential. You always want at least some silence in your deck. Every deck runs some sort of minion that needs to be silenced, so you need one owl. If you have 2 in your hand, it kind of gets stuck sometimes, so it's better to have 1. So I agree with the call there by Jab. Knife Juggler, it works with things like Unleash the Hounds. It works just having early pressure on the board. Sometimes you can kind of fake people out. You can play Knife Juggler and Explosive Trap, and they think it's snakes, and so they run into the face, and then they lose all their minions, stuff like that. Mad Scientist is one of the best cards in the game. it's a 2-drop that basically is 4 mana worth of stuff, and you play it immediately, and you thin out your deck so you can get your better stuff out. Eagle Hold Bow, obviously, it's a great weapon. Synergizes with the secrets. I don't think I need to really explain that one. Animal Companion, great card as well. You're always going to get better than average value on that card, and most of the time, no matter what comes out, you're going to be happy. Kill Command, obviously essential for the region for taking out sticky minions, or not sticky minions, just having removal. 3 mana, 5 damage is pretty good. It's basically like a lava burst, except you don't get overloaded. Kill things like Sludge Belcher, get them out of the way, make it easy. Legion Hound's pretty essential, especially against aggro. It'd also be a way to push for damage against control if they decide to load the board, and because they're trying to stabilize Houndmaster. There's 2 Houndmasters, it's a little bit risky, it's a little bit greedy, but there's a lot of minions in this deck that benefit from it, obviously. So a lot of time, since there's so many sticky beasts, and you can do something like turn 5 Web Spinner Houndmaster, a lot of time you'll be able to get them off, and it's just really devastating if you can get that combo off on your opponent. So 1 Pilot Setter, you can also run 2 Pilot and 1 Houndmaster. Definitely something you can do to increase your odds a little bit of getting a solid 4-drop, but Houndmaster is such a dominant play, and also one of the other reasons why I'm pretty sure he put 2 Houndmasters in the deck was because there's no taunts, and so if you're playing against an aggressive deck, it's better to have 2 Houndmasters to provide automatic taunts rather than relying on rolling a Misha or something. Lothab is a nice way to tempo your opponent out. High Main, this is an amazing card. You can't not have 2 in the deck. And Dr. Boom to round it out. If you're putting pressure on, like even if you put enough pressure on, even if it dies to Big Game Hunter, you're forcing your opponent to use 3 mana, or they'd rather put like a big taunt up. So if you play something on 7, it's unlikely they're going to have Big Game Hunter and a 4 mana taunt. I mean, worst case scenario, I guess, is they Big Game Hunter and they put up like a Sludge Belcher because it's turn 8. But a lot of times, like if they don't have Big Game Hunter, they're screwed. Even if they do use it, they have to use mana, and the rest of the turn is usually Hero Power or something like that. So, Dr. Boom is just really devastating in that way. And so we can let me just stick this off to the side, and we'll talk about the matchups for a little bit. One thing I was going to touch on earlier, I forgot, was that one of the reasons why Midrange Hunter has come back and is so strong again, even though it fell off for a little bit, is because decks like Grim Patron Warrior and Handlock are very strong again, and Midrange Hunter is very good against that. So yeah, let's just go through the different classes, and what is this deck good against? Druid. It's Midrange Hunter is slightly favored against Druid. Basically out-tempo them, even though they have no ramp. It's just really hard for Druid to deal with all your minions. They don't have much removal. It's kind of like a race, basically, especially because you're usually playing against Midrange Druid. If you're playing against Ramp Druid, you usually have enough time to hero power them down before they can kill you. If they get like huge taunts up, and then they can strangle you out of the game. But if you get your if you save your Hunter's Mark and use your owls and stuff, basically save your removal for the important times. If you can identify early, that is Ramp Druid. Ramp being like the more defensive version, then you can kill them as well. Hunter, it has kind of a bad matchup versus Face Hunter, particularly because you don't have things like Sludge Belchers to be defensive. If you had Sludge Belchers, it'd be a little better, but if you put Sludge Belchers, you're sacrificing against more control matchups. So against Hybrid Hunter and against Face Hunter, it's not a very good matchup. Obviously the mirror, it really dependent on what you draw. Mage, there's a lot of mages. So Mech Mage has kind of died out. It's kind of a race against Mech Mage, but they can usually out-tempo you. But if you get some good mad scientists out, you can get some value out of your cards, and maybe sometimes they have tough time dealing with you, and you can get a good Unleash off as well if you get Night Dragon Unleash. So it's a pretty close matchup with Mech Mage against Tempo Mage. If you save your Unleash the Hounds, you can get really good value out of it because they're going to be playing things like Mirror Image. But that's the kind of that they are able to tempo you out of that as well. So it's a little bit difficult. Against Freeze Mage, it's a good matchup because Freeze Mage typically doesn't have a way to deal with all your huge minions. and they just run out of ways to like stall you out. Obviously, if they have a perfect hand, then you have a little bit of trouble, but it's a good matchup against Freeze Mage. Against Paladin, it's kind of like who gets the tempo first. It's a pretty even matchup in my opinion. Although Paladin has a lot of good early options in order to stall you out, so it's kind of like whoever gets the early lead in all the cases. Priest is not a very good matchup. They just have so much removal to deal with your stuff, and you kind of run out of cards sometimes. It's definitely not a horrible matchup. You can win it, you know, over 40% of the time. But you know, they just have so many options. But not many people play Priest because it's bad against the other things on the ladder right now. Well, a lot of them. Rogue is an interesting matchup because a lot of your stuff is sticky, which Rogue has a bit of a tough time dealing with. On the other hand, they do have Sap to get rid of your high mains, which is really devastating. But on the other hand, you have Dr. Boom, which, you know, Rogue hates to deal with. So if you can get early tempo lead on Rogue, you can win it. But I would say Rogue is a slight favorite. But again, it's not overwhelming by overwhelming margin. Shaman is a pretty good matchup because there's many different types of Shaman. I think Mech Shaman, the Mech Shaman can kind of maybe tempo you out of the game, but on the same token, you can use your removal like Quick Shot. If you can just stabilize, they can't really deal with your late game minions. The normal controls, like the mid-rangey control-y Shaman that you don't see very often, that's good for the Hunter because you don't have. The Shaman needs a little bit of time to get set up to be able to burst you down, and then Hunter can usually tempo you out of the game with things like, you know, Unleash the Hounds and Mad Scientist. Warlock is the thing you're most likely to see on ladder. Zoo can be a little bit of an issue, but Zoo has slowed down a bit, so sometimes you can get your Handmasters off, sometimes you can actually get your high mains out because Zoo has slowed down so much. And against the fastest Zoo, it's a little bit of an underdog, but against Handlock is really, really good, which is why Midrange Hunter is viable right now. Handlock is good against Grim Patron Warrior, and Midrange Hunter is good against that. So against Warrior, it's actually, I think, a favorite against the against Control Warrior, even though it seems like you're trying to kill them, you know, and Warrior has a lot of ways to armor up, but they just really can't deal with your bigger threats. That being the high main, it's hard to deal with the Shredders and buffed up Handmaster minions, etc., etc. Grim Patron Warrior can be an issue because if you allow them to survive long enough, they can get huge Grim Patron turns and kind of wipe your board. So, say a slight bit of underdog against that, but it's not much of an underdog. It's not too much of an underdog where your like the deck isn't worth playing because it's good against Handlock, which counters that. So it's kind of a little bit of a triangle, but I think in a lot of cases, Midrange Hunter gets the upper hand because it's really good against Handlock, but not so bad against Grim Patron Warrior. So with that said, so that explanation has been about 13 minutes. I guess we should get into a game already and see how this plays out. All right, where are we? Over here. So we're playing on Legend Rank on the America server, and let's just see how this plays out. Alright, so we're immediately paired against the Hunter, which is not the best matchup, because I'm assuming this guy's either Hybrid Hunter or Fat Face Hunter. So we're immediately just going to toss all of these. Eagle Hornbow can be a really nice option, but we need to be as greedy as possible. He mulligan all four, which means he might be Midrange Hunter as well. Usually you're more likely to get small minions. So this is not a very good start. You don't want Hunter's Mark early against their Hunter, but we did draw the Web Spinner, so our luck has turned around. This Web Spinner is obviously great to get a one-drop on one, and this on two.
I'll show them. I'll show them all.
So we could use the Hunter's Mark here, but I think it's better to just play out a 2-drop and just go for it here. We're not quite sure what matchup this is yet, so using Hunter's Mark is a little bit wasteful in my opinion. This is good if we can make it there, but I'm not sure how likely it is that we'll actually make it there. This was a very good pickup for us because now we can actually almost guarantee that we get a Houndmaster off unless he... Okay, so we got the freezing. So we got our freezing trap out of ours, which is fine because he doesn't get the trap out of his. Let's see. So we need to figure out what secret this is. If it's snakes or freezing, it doesn't really matter too much. The problem is I can't really get past this regardless. So what I think I'm gonna do, like, in order to kill this, I would have to Hunter's Mark it and hit it with the one that doesn't get freezinged. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and just do... Well, I can actually swing with this first because I can put it on the field a little bit later, just to see what happens. Okay, so it is freezing. Because I kind of don't want to guarantee that I had something that or that I could get the freezing out of his hand, or get the freezing procced. Because in some rare cases he could maybe kill this, you know, play Unleash or something, kill the rest of my guys, and now I'm stuck having to swing with the Houndmaster, which would have been a problem. Okay, so this is a good pickup for me, which means it kind of shuts him out of playing anything substantial. Like, he can't unleash the hounds now. Actually, you know what we're gonna do? Actually, I shouldn't have played this first because this might be explosive. I'm actually gonna do this and just see if this is freezing. Yeah, we screwed up. I screwed up in that exchange. I should have played this last. So everyone makes mistakes, but I wanted to try to bait out the second freezing there. If that indeed was what he had. So this looks like it's looking at what he had. What he has, it looks like it's Hybrid Hunter. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just play this and just go face. Considering it's Hybrid Hunter, we're in a good spot because we have bigger minions on the board. He has to kind of expend a lot of effort taking these out. I also have this. Okay, so that's kind of annoying for me. He does have to trade in though, so there's that. Okay, so I was gonna bluff the freezing trap, but I think it's better to just get my own high main on the board. And so we're in a pretty dominant spot here. He has to, even if he plays something like freezing trap, like really the only way to deal with this is if he plays freezing trap. And if he does, then I can just bait it out with Unleash the Hounds. He really has no choice but to race here, which is the correct call. I definitely agree with this call. He cannot be wasting time clearing my, or trading with my minions at all. So I'm in a little bit of a bind here. How much damage do we have? We have 6, 10, 12, and then 14 with this. If we decide to go that route. I think playing Dr. Boom is a little bit... I could play Dr. Boom and Hunter's Mark this guy and start killing off some of the guys and maybe go face afterward. But it's a little bit risky to unleash. If I did that, I think I would just trade off both of my guys until he'd have a 2-2 left in the field. He'd have 4-6 guaranteed damage if he had Kill Command. Actually, he'd Kill Command and something else as well. But if he had Unleash, that would be... It was 1... So there's 4 guys in the field. If he unleashed Kill Command, that would be lethal, but it would be lethal anyway because it only needs 2 damage from that. I could try to leave nothing on the board. Maybe I just Explosive, and I kill them the turn afterward. But I think it's best to just go for the... He's already used 1 Kill Command, so I think this is best. And then just remove as much stuff on the board as possible. Because if I don't put this much damage on the board, say if I just went Explosive Trap and Hero Power, he'd be at 10 right now. But I'd have to like guarantee that I get this, and that might be an issue. So does he actually have lethal here? Doesn't seem like it. Okay. So we got a little bit fortunate. That's not a good matchup for us. basically we got a nice early start, and he got his early minions a little bit too late. We got a little bit fortunate. We made one misplay, but that's okay. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. It actually made him trade into us, which is kind of okay if you think about it. If he had gone phase with his Leopard Gnome and his Abusive Sergeant, he might have been able to close the game out. But yeah, we got a little bit of fortune there.
Rexa versus Gul'dan.
Okay, so Morrigan changes depending on whether this is Handlock or Zoo. If it's Zoo, I kind of want to keep this, even though I have to wait till turn 5. It's such a devastating Mulligan 2, that's right in the middle. So it's probably still Zoo. I think I want to keep this, even though it's a turn 5 play. I think I need to get lucky again in this matchup. This isn't the best starting hand, but this is such a devastating turn 5 play that I kind of want to just guarantee that I have it in my hand. Quick shot's okay to just kind of ward him off for a little bit, assuming this is Zoo. If it's Handlock, then okay, he's playing on turn 1, so this isn't much of a threat, really. I'm actually going to play out the web spinner here, just to have options for, even though it's not really mana efficient. I could have just hero powered, but I'm trying to take control of the board in this matchup so I can set up my high mains to really do damage. If I start trying to race him now, it's not going to work. I need to take control of the board in the beginning of the game. So maybe this gives me a good beast. I could have played the Night Juggler actually and just kind of gotten value out of it, but I really want to save that Night Juggler Unleashed. It's just so powerful. So we're just gonna play out the Mukla here that we got. There's no real better time than turn 3. This Zoo wants to be playing out minions, and a lot of those minions are very cheap. So it's kind of a waste of time for him to be playing Benez. Maybe he can fit 1 in after he plays a 2-drop, but otherwise he's not really looking to play Benez right now. He could do something like Abusive Sergeant. This guy, double banana. But again, it's a little bit of a waste of mana for a Zoo. Just waiting for him to make his turn. One thing to consider is that this Zoo could be a little bit faster Zoo, or it could be a slower Zoo. Both these cards are in both types of Zoo. It could be like a more mid-rangey, demon deck with things like Sylvanas, Void Caller, Mal'Ganis, stuff like that. Well, obviously the top end is Mal'Ganis. So this doesn't really give away anything either, because it's always going to have strong, or this guy's just too good to leave out of his Zoo deck. So we're just going to go ahead and play this. We're going to keep this in our back pocket. We might not use it next turn if he doesn't flood the board. But we have the board control right now. He does have the bananas potentially, but that uses a lot of mana, and yeah, it's not the best thing for him to play. I mean, obviously he can get value by putting on this guy and killing this guy, but he's sacrificing a little bit there. Yeah, this is probably a better play. He gets a 2/3, and he basically bananas these guys anyway. Looks like he's just gonna trade off the or he's gonna kill this guy straight away. I think this might be a good time for Night Juggler Unleash, because everything else is a little bit weak. I could do something like, actually, yeah, Night Juggler Unleash is too good. I was gonna say I might maybe break this up with Quick Shot, but that's a bad idea. I think I'll just break this up right now and then go Night Juggler Unleash. You're not gonna get much more juicy than this. Even though this gets another guy spawn, it's not that big of a deal. So we got decent luck on all our stuff. Let's just go face. We don't necessarily need to trade into this guy. He could be running something like Shadow Flame, but it's unlikely. So we're just going to leave this guy alive. It's a little bit of a waste of time to be trading this guy when a lot of times Zoo doesn't have the capabilities of dealing with multiple minions like this. Yeah, Shadow Flame is pretty rare. Basically, Zoo, if they're not ahead in the early game, it's kind of like a waste. It's kind of a waste of them for you playing AoE because they just want to be ahead in the early game anyway. He gets to kill my guy, but I think it's worth it going phase. Okay, so Moral Coil, that's a kind of unusual card. This actually makes it hard for him to play certain guys, and I don't have any guys with Battle Cry, so yeah, this is very good for me. If I can play this guy right now without, yeah, if he doesn't play anything threatening, I can just play my High Mage, and I'm actually in like great position. So yeah, we're just gonna go. Actually, this could be a Leok, which would be amazing. But we're not gonna risk it. I mean, if it's a Huffer, then it's not that great. So let's just do this. We're also gonna go phase because we have a lot of burst in our hand as well, and he's getting pretty low. Also, his hero power, his hero power hurts him, so he can't use that to help him at all. He has to basically like work with the cards in hand, or else he'll get dangerously low and close to dying. This is a really poor turn from him last turn, unfortunately for him. He's going on an Owl that which costs him 4 mana to do so. That's really. I can't really say that I like that play from him. And this guy's still on the board. It's not like I can't deal with him. So we're just gonna roll. I mean, we're just gonna roll this to see what we get. It's extremely good. I don't really feel like wasting 2 guys into this guy, so we're just gonna do this, and then we're gonna go all the rest of face because he is nowhere near to killing me, and I'm actually just gonna shoot him too. I don't need to put Mad Science on the board. There's no reason to trade these guys. I don't care what kind of good trades. He could get the best trades in the world with this guy. It doesn't really matter because he's at 5 health. He's never gonna kill me. I'm at 26. Zoo has a bit of burst, but not that much burst. So this game is pretty much over. This guy was actually super useful because I didn't have any battle cries and he did, and his battle cry basically silenced my guy, which I really would have to disagree with this play here. He didn't actually accomplish anything by silencing him. Yep. So that was a pretty nice, quick, and easy victory. I would say in both of those cases, I got a little bit fortunate. But that's kind of how the way you have to play sometimes. If you know you're in an unfavored matchup, you have to mulligan for the best cards available and not try to go for the safe route. The safe route would be like, okay, this card will probably like for instance, in the first game, I could have kept the Eagle Horn Bow, and sometimes if you're playing against a class that you think you're going to beat, you keep it as insurance. Like, okay, if my mulligan's horrible, at least I have this card that'll help me. But you can't do that in an unfavorable matchup because you're just going to end up losing unless you get really good cards or your really good start, your perfect start. And yeah, so that's how you want to play those matchups. We're going to end the guide right there. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that helps you with your ladder. And hope you enjoy Midrange Hunter.